This is Chili B, and you're checking out Hip Hop Slam with Billy Jam.
I'm here with Chili B, who I haven't seen in maybe 30, 30 years or more.
It's got to be at least 30.
At least 30 years.
Yeah.
And, I was kind of thinking about going back in time and looking at your history, your rich history, and thinking it's 37 years ago when you dropped your first record, Chili B and the Posse, Freedom, A Message to the World, on Vanessa Records. And you're definitely like a pioneer in Bay Area rap/hip hop, right?
Well, thank you. I don't know. You say so. I believe you. I feel like it. I've been around for a while. I think I've been around from the early days of hip hop, Bay Area hip hop.
Well, back in the 80s, there was like a handful of records out of the Bay.
Yes. And I remember arriving here. First thing I wanted to do was try to find out where is the rap community, what is it like, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I'm just honored that I was able to be a part, and that the Bay Area pretty much adopted me here.
And you moved from North Carolina, correct?
I'm originally from North Carolina, but at the time that I moved here from East Texas. I was there on scholarship. I played basketball out there in East Texas, and I grew tired of East Texas kind of fast, and I wanted to find something else, and I didn't want to go back home to North Carolina, so came further west and landed here. Came here for the summer of 1985, and I tell people it's still summer. It's just one long summer.
Yeah. And then I was going back to, and I was saying about how I just uncovered a Calix radio interview, and it was when you dropped Let's Roll, also on Vanessa Records.
Yes.
So that was that's 1990, already 34 years ago. And even back then,
Wow.
The Bay Area was a very small, close-knit community.
Yeah, and 34 years. Wow, man, I didn't even realize. I didn't even do the math in my head. I just knew it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But the way now that you have receipts right here and you're saying 34 years, and I'm like, wow, that's a long time.
When did we first meet? Late 80s, right?
Definitely late 80s. If I'm not mistaken, you were at one of the radio stations in Berkeley?
Yeah.
Yeah?
KLX. And also I think I
And
wrote
you
about
were-
you in the Source magazine, too.
Yeah. That's when we met, when you wrote about it in Source.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a long time, man.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
And you mentioned about the basketball, and I remember when I did a TV interview with you in 1992, it was of the time for the Menace to Society.
Right.
That was over at the basketball, and it was the midnight basketball.
No, I think,
What was it called?
that was, I don't know, did you come to the celebrity thing? We did a
Well,
celebrity
it was a daytime thing we went to, wasn't it? You were just talking about it.
Yeah, I do remember the video, the interview. It was in Concord.
Right.
And I think it was at Mount Diablo High School.
Yeah.
We did it in their gym. It wouldn't have been midnight basketball. Because
But weren't you involved in that at the time, the
at
basketball?
midnight? No, I was involved in basketball. But
Okay.
the midnight basketball wasn't a program that I was part of. But I did go and kind of support, and we were allies, should I say.
Yeah.
But I started out basically coaching kids, aside from playing league ball. Played in many different leagues around the Bay Area. But I was coaching the kids out there in Concord, Walnut Creek area, and I ran a couple of basketball camps, and I hosted celebrity basketball game. A couple of times we played with KMEL, had KMEL out, and a couple of times we played against the police department to try to build some camaraderie in the community, and so that was pretty much what we were doing then.
Could you always meld it, in my opinion, community activism with hip hop?
Yes.
And you were so good at like connecting with different entities and people and organizations.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. It was my passion. I mean, I think it's my calling. I love people. I've always loved people and love networking and connecting people, and just try to do what I can to make the world a better place. That's pretty much been my mantra since day one.
Yeah.
And that's been my purpose, and that's what I still continue to do 30, 35 years later.
So you've never really stopped, have you?
I've never stopped being me. I did stop pursuit of the music industry, though, after Summer Jam. After playing Summer Jam that year,
Which year was that?
92, I think it was Summer Jam 92. And that was when MC Hammer and Too Short were the co-headliners. And I had an opportunity to play that. And when I first came to California, I heard Summer Jam on the radio, and that's when they used to hold it at the Concord Pavilion. And I was listening to it, and I said, "Oh, I want to be a part of this show. I want to do this show one day." Many years later, I got a chance to do it, but at that time there was a lot of stuff going on, in my life, and I just said, you know what, I'm gonna walk away. So I threw in the towel on the music. I thought I would never perform ever again, and at that point, Chili B was done, and I became a stay-at-home dad for 4 kids, and coached basketball and did all the fun stuff. And little did I know, years later, that I would reemerge 17, 18 years later and start performing and recording again.
So then the last interview I did with you in '92 was just right before then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned Too Short and MC Hammer at the Summer Jam. And there was a thing that when I uncovered that 1990 interview where somebody in Fresno was interviewing MC Hammer and they brought up your name. What was that whole thing about? Or do you want to talk about that?
I almost don't really want to talk about
Okay.
it, but yeah, it was something that happened, and then my response to it, and then it kind of led to something else. But then I just kind of stood down on that because a lot of other people started getting into disrespecting Hammer. I like Hammer. He's super, in my opinion, he's a super good business person. I have a mutual respect for him. And so it was no animosity, and it was more like a competitive type of thing as far as lyricists and performers and stuff like that. But some people just blew it way out of proportion.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting time.
Right. But these releases that came, I thought these were after '92.
They were. I think the Born Suspicious EP, I believe, was 1993 because we released that on Alternative Tentacles.
Right, Jello Biafras, right?
Yes. Welcome to Chilltown was a single that we released just prior to that. So we had that one released on the cassette, but then when he wanted to do the EP, we threw it on the EP as well as Menace to Society and Confusion and some of the other stuff that we had already done as singles. We just put them on a collaboration project as an EP. So, man, I'm gonna tell you, time gets kind of cloudy for me because it seems like one big day, one big period. So I have to really look at the dates on the back. But
Yeah.
it was definitely early 90s, late 80s.
Right.
And I know Confusion was 88 or 89. That was right after the Rodney King thing.
Yeah.
When I did Confusion. No, Born Suspicious.
And that time in history, especially here on the West Coast and especially in hip hop, it was a really important time, and a lot of people were reacting to hip hop music, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. It was a time of, expression and, kind of what was going on at the time or what changes that we wanted to see. It's kind of like affirmations that we were putting in their music, and some people were rapping about things that were real to them in their neighborhood. And then it was about having fun. So some of my stuff, my earlier stuff, was just like party type stuff and nothing really serious. And then I started gravitating more to using my voice to really confront things that are going on in the world that we needed to talk about at some point. And so that's kind of what started me to like the social activism part of my music and then what I do in the community as well.
Right. And like when, people who are sort of coming up today and don't really, all they know is the history, like as told through secondhand, and they weren't there. Like what I remember firsthand was that, you were a major artist in the Bay Area. You got major publicity, and you were like you mentioned about the political activism, like Paris. I think you and Paris were very similar in a lot of the stuff you did. And everybody, like in the media, I remember at the time, expected you to blow up huge, but then you went and you kind of quit the game.
Yeah.
But do you ever think that maybe like you would have been a major superstar by now had you not dropped out to, take care of your family?
I thought about it a little bit. There definitely no regrets. But my son, my son, who is now he'll be 35 this week.
Wow.
He told me that. He was part of the inspiration that made me think maybe I should give it one more go, because he told me, I was driving him to school one day as I was dropping the kids off. We were listening to old music and my demos when they were on cassettes, and we were listening to them, and he'd ask me, Dad, how old was I when you recorded this song? And I said, oh, you were 1 or you were 2, whatever song it was. And some of them were, oh, I recorded that before you were born. And he was like, wow, Dad, you're a pretty good rapper. And he says, you should see if you can get your name back out there, because if you hadn't stopped, you could have been famous all over the world by now. And I said, oh man, that's nice for you to say, kind of like, didn't think much about it. But I didn't know that just a few years after that, that I would actually make that move. And, he mentioned some stuff that was real, like we have the internet now. We didn't have back in the day when I left, MySpace was the platform that all the artists and producers were putting their music on MySpace. And he was like, Dad, we have MySpace. You can put your songs on MySpace. And I was like, good idea, buddy. So I started doing that. And finally it was like, you know what? I think I'm going to give it a go. And I did. And then 10 years of just traveling full time, to 27 countries to share my music with the world and my purpose. And I just feel honored and humbled, to have a second chance around at it and to be able to hopefully influence or other people in a positive way. Yeah, so music is life. Life is music.
And I think hip hop saves lives. I really do.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, going from the MySpace era, which is like eons ago too, in terms of technology, to today, I mean, things are just so rapid now. And this year, 2024, you released Divided States of America. You want to talk about that?
Yes, Divided States of America is the latest thing that I released, and I wanted to say something about ever since the 2016 election. I noticed that the divide was bigger, and it was more obvious. It was more obvious, and we've always been kind of divided, but there was a lot of unity. That was more prevalent, was the unity. And after the 2016 election, it just seems like people became had show less compassion. We're divided about everything. I mean, we're divided almost everything under the sun.
Even sports.
Yeah, sports, Roe versus Wade, do Black Lives Matter or not, vaccines, the coronavirus, everything. And we're so polarized. So as I'm sitting around, I'm thinking, you know what? We are more divided than we are united. And I want to say something about it, but I don't know really how I'm going to say it. So I started writing a rap, and I thought, well, this is too cliche. This is too predictable. And it seemed to be more polarizing because I was talking about, Republican and Democrats and blah, blah, blah. That's not what I want. I didn't want to be political about it, but I wanted to address this idea that we are divided. And I wanted to point it out to people, to just say, observe, critical analysis. We are divided states. And I even pondered, maybe we should change the name of our country to the Divided States of America. And I had a couple of guys were like, pushing back, was like, well, if you don't like it here, you should move someplace else. And I said, no, I love it here. I already know what it's like to live somewhere else. I grew up in Europe, so I know about that. But I love it here so much, I'd rather stay here, but make it better, truly better for everybody. So what am I going to say? I didn't really know. So I threw the rap to the side and I said, I want to do a monologue where I would just get my ideas and be able to say what I feel. And I kind of took a page, was kind of influenced by Consolidated, something that Consolidated.
Who you worked with before.
Who I worked with before, and they produced my EP, and I saw how they were doing things with the samples, and even Michael Franti, Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy, they were being able to communicate their message, and it took me back to the early 90s. And I was like, that's what I'll do. I'll just do something similar to that, inspired by them and, Gil Scott-Heron, but I could still say what I needed to say. So I did with Divided States of America, hoping that it would just awaken people to say, we are divided, and what are the solutions? I offer not only the problem, but the solutions in the song. And I think I nailed it pretty good as far as communicating what I felt was an important message.
Who produced that? And also, are you going to do a video for it?
I produced it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did. And I would love to do a video for it. I would love to, but that's another, I have to find a videographer that could do it, that would take it.
You could even do it just from sort of found footage, of the things that you're addressing in the song.
Kind of like some archive footage.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely would love to do a video for it. And if you have any ideas of any archive footage, shoot them my way.
Okay.
I can work on my editing skills and put it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did the production on it. A friend of mine, Matt Hayes, is the guitar player. He did some amazing guitar work on there. He's based in LA. And we're going to be working on more stuff together as well. But I think it was pretty much nailed what I was going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A thing I just thought of just now when we're chatting was that, didn't you connect with PlayStation?
I did at one point.
And you did an ad, was it for them, or what was it?
So no, I was actually pitching for Sega.
Okay.
So Sega was the TV commercials I was in.
Oh, right, right.
So I was doing that for a few years for Sega, and then I got a call from an agency. They wanted me to do do a voiceover for Sony PlayStation, and I did their. It was a demo reel, so I had some of my original music on, and I was doing a narration for Sony PlayStation. So that's really the only two video companies that I work for, and I'm a gamer too, so I like playing those games.
Oh,
So
you
it's
are?
kind of fun, yeah.
So when you look back at your career, when you look back from starting out here in the Bay Area back in, the mid 80s up to the early 90s, what are some of the biggest highlights for you and fond memories, whether shows or the people or other artists?
Man, there's too many to name. I can tell you one thing that stands out was 1994 at the Concord Pavilion, Symphony Under Wraps, where they scored the Pavilion Associates, which is a nonprofit that was affiliated with the Concord Pavilion. They wanted to introduce the kids into symphonic music and the orchestra. So they scored 3 of my original songs from my EP, Born Suspicious, for a full symphony. So I was there with the world-renowned California Symphony with Maestro Barry Tchaikovsky, and we performed 3 of my original songs at the Concord Pavilion, which was a highlight because that's the first time that rap has met with symphony. But since then, there's been other rap artists who have done things with the symphony.
Andre Nicotina.
Andre Nicotina was the most recent that I heard of. Sir Mix-a-Lot with the Seattle Symphony. And then I think Puff Daddy did something with the symphony. And people tend to be very amazed by rap and symphony mixture. But they don't know the small guy. 1994, if you go back and check the receipts, you'll see Symphony Under Wraps. Me and the California Symphony did it first. Not that I'm trying to lay claims on it, but I'm trying to lay claims on it.
So you mentioned your son who kind of encouraged you to get back into the music. Does he do music?
He does not.
Okay.
He's just he's a connoisseur. He loves music. He listens as a listener, but he doesn't participate, produce, or perform.
Last question, the future for Chili B.
Oh man, I don't know what the future holds for me. I just take it one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. But I think I still have a lot to say. So I think I'll be around for a long time. I still have a lot to say and things that I want to do. And so yeah, I'll be around.